So those are no, they're probably. I can hear it. I'm gonna probably get it. You can move up and back some more. Yeah.
Again, sort of. I remember you from there.
I'm with Alanna Sparenese, and she does the most amazing encaustic work that I've ever seen. And Alanna, please tell us a little bit about your process, like where it originated and what you do to make it so magnificent.
Okay, well actually it's a very ancient medium. It goes back 3,000 to 4,000 years. And they actually used to do portraits in it, which I'm amazed by because it's a very challenging medium to work with because of its fluidity and its loss of control when you're actually working with it. That's one of the reasons why I love it.
So what's involved in encaustic? I know that there's wax, but what else?
I use filtered unbleached beeswax and damar resin, which increases the flexibility and the durability of it. It actually adds something to the final product because you get a sheen in the end once you buff it. It increases its archival nature as well. So as time goes on, it gets harder and harder and harder. Oh, wow. And I add dry pigment and oil paint, and I use oil sticks as I'm doing it as well.
Well, I also understand that you use a special tool to create these.
Yeah, it's fun. I have a blowtorch.
So you blast
There's like
these.
Power. Yeah, it's really, there's like an alchemical sort of process to encaustic, and that's one of the things I love about it. But the blowtorch actually fuses each layer of the beeswax together to create the bond that's super important for encaustic. And I usually start at about 8 layers. Some of my paintings have 12 or 15 layers of the wax. And as I'm adding layers, I'm adding pigment, so you're getting layers of color. And it also increases the translucency of it.
So tell me how you achieve like the tree, the birds. How do you get such clarity in it?
Well, I use my own photography, and I transfer that into the wax. Sometimes I draw pictures or I paint little pictures, and then I transfer that into the wax.
So when you say you transfer it into the wax, is it a transfer medium or you're...
No, I transfer the actual image into the wax by burnishing it.
Oh, wow.
And then by rubbing it off. And then I finish it with 2 more layers of wax. And I have to, of course, fuse that with my blowtorch as well. There's a fusing, it's all about bonding, and layering.
Well, I think that, as we look through these, there's a quality to them that it's almost like the light is coming through the image.
I start off with 3 or 4 layers of translucent wax, and that's basically priming my substrate. And that's what allows the light to go through and reflect back. And that's what gives you that dreamy sort of translucency. And that's one of the things I love about encaustic.
Because, like in this one that we see with the birds, the depth that you have in there of the clouds and the range of light and tones, it's very deep.
When I do that kind of technique, it's very haphazard, and I just kind of, this is the one thing I love about painting. It's when you forget everything that you've learned and you just experiment and you kind of go crazy on it. And I do, it's very unconventional the way I do my clouds actually. They tell you not to do it that way.
So you break
the way I brush it on, it's wax is kind of splattering and stuff, but then in the end you fuse it together with your blowtorch and it melts together, and that's when you get that beautiful dreamy fluid coming together sort of look.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided on your subject matter?
I'm totally inspired by nature. I walk my dogs twice a day. I'm outside and I just can't wait to get home and paint this. I love the sky. I love the openness of it, the purity of it. I feel comforted by the sky.
Well, it seems that, in many of your scenes, the sky is like 3/4 of the image. So I totally understand where you're coming from. That you have a wonderful depth and range of tonality, throughout the they're on board, aren't they? They're on a panel.
They're on a wood substrate, Yep.
And can you tell us anything about the birds?
I love birds. I feel a connection to bird. Everything they symbolize, freedom, spreading your wings and flying and seeing where it's going to take you. Journey, exploration, discovery. I just love everything that birds symbolize. They're very fragile and delicate, yet they're super strong and smart.
Thank you so much, and that really rounds it out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Alanna. That's
Thank
really
you very
beautiful.
much.
And your work is on at the Eclectic Gallery through the month of January.
Yep, with Lisa Hebden. Yeah.
Great.
And you've grown a lot since I said Maui every year, which is great. It's well, this was an art show. So there was 25 or 30 artists in that. So the walls were just packed.
So she didn't hear it. And she took French all the way through high school. So she's our first
How did you find out?
I was like, in fact,
That's the thing when you're in Europe. You can go anywhere. We took the train from France to Italy. It's like, okay, we were in France. There's an hour ago, an hour in Italy. It's pretty awesome.
Where are you from?
Hi, I'm with Lisa Hebden at Eclectic, and Lisa, your work is really magnificent, and I'm first of all totally impressed with the scale of things, but also the level of detail, and I find it very attractive to see the amount of patterning that you have in your work. Can you tell me a little bit about the treescape here?
Yes, this is a piece that was quite a departure for me. It's on board, and I usually paint on canvas. And I started it with a pen and ink, like a very kind of old-fashioned nib, metal nib, and an inkwell.
So it's a pen and ink drawing?
It's a pen and ink drawing on board, yes. Which is very different because I usually paint with brushes, oil on canvas. And so it was quite freeing. I just kind of went, well, what would happen if I went over here, and what would happen if
So does the image come from a memory? Is it from your imagination? Is it something you've seen?
I let the painting tell me what was happening, which is also totally unusual for me. I usually have a bit of a plan in mind, but with this one, it was kind of, the lines became tree-like, and I just went with it.
So it's kind of like a kid's stick drawing. And
well, in a way,
pieces of wood.
In a way, yeah. They became more, they suggested themselves to me, I guess, and I just went with it.
What I find amazing is the figure that's hiding behind the tree and then the footprints through the snow. At first I didn't see that, and then I went, oh my gosh, look at that. So, where is that originating from? Is that, is that a dream? Is it a subconscious element? Is it, something from your childhood?
It's a very conscious element. I have a friend who's an abstract painter, and when he saw this piece, he said, you just couldn't resist, could you? And it's like, well, no, there always has to be a person in there somewhere.
So it's that realism and the figure, so it's relating to the human form again.
Yeah, and it had a companion piece that was a portrait of the girl who's hiding behind the tree, and that's gone. That piece is gone.
Do you mind if we talk about this other portrait of a girl?
Oh, sure.
Just behind you here. There's an amazing portrait of the figure, and we're left with a lot of questions from this drawing. What is it, that she's looking at?
Well, I like to let you decide that.
So you're not going to lead us on?
I'm not going to lead you on because I actually don't know.
Okay.
And that's part of, for me, sometimes it's part of the magic is that
it's titled The Dare.
I don't know. Yeah.
So you're daring us to make up the answer, to come to a conclusion.
I liked the idea that there was someone behind her, potentially, and she's kind of looking out. And the dare just sort of, to me, when I was titling the piece, it kind of suggested that an action was going to take place, but we don't know what it is.
Well, there is somebody behind her. It's the viewer.
Yes.
The viewer is behind her, and you're left with this big question, and also you're left with a big X in the center of the canvas.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of unknowns there, but I think that you've handled it exquisitely. The quality of light, the figure itself is very challenging, and you're left with this big question as to explaining it, and you can see it as a landscape, a seascape, any number of possibilities.
Yeah, I had a hard time classifying it when I did that piece because it is a portrait, but it's not not. Yeah.
And then in some of your recent works, like this one, you have a thicket of bushes and shrubs and trees in the foreground that are in fine focus, and they're obscuring the background, which seems to be a cityscape.
Yes.
And yet there's layers and layers and layers going on. Can you tell us about what you're doing in this area?
Yes, and it was interesting. It's interesting that you put it the way you put it, because actually, if you did a cross section, the sky is the foreground and the trees are the background. That's the way I painted it. So the trees kind of again began a similar way with pen and ink, and then it was like when I brought the sky in on top of it, I came into the studio, I kind of left it and it dried in this sort of interesting way. It was layers and layers, and I came into the studio one morning and all of a sudden there was a city. I just saw it, and so I pushed that, and it reminds me of I lived in New York for about 6 months, and I used to walk from one side of Central Park to the other, to the Met. And as the trees thinned, the city became more and more clear, and that's what it
has definitely that city impression, and also the season is winter. The season, there's no leaves on the tree, and yet there's a lot of life in the trees. You have movement of light and shadow, but also there are various bird forms throughout that as well. I find it really fascinating when you can create an element of chaos, where structure and pattern are abandoned, and you're creating within that space an amazingly complex image.
I've had people point things out to me that I never saw before in that piece. Like someone's pointed out that there's a face in there, and now I can't not see it, but I like the idea that people can discover things in your painting that you never saw yourself.
Well, that's great, Lisa. There's really a lot of discovery in your work, and I feel that each one offers a vista into the imagination.
Well, I hope so.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And your work is up through the month of January at Eclectic. Thank you.
Well, it's like the 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 450. You're like,
my number, I think, for my age was more than